The second keystone principle of mental health is boundaries. We will consider the consequences of inadequate boundaries and how they impact on self-preservation, because weak, inappropriate, inconsistent, ambiguous and porous boundaries create risk and danger. We will reflect on some specific examples of boundary problems, along with all their attendant risks and dangers, against the illuminating backdrop of the unifying spiral. In the centre of the spiral, where people are trusted and their risk of danger is low, boundaries too are low. Boundaries are commensurately raised on the periphery, where the risk and danger are high. In the centre, where people are trusted, you may need no more than a line in the sand. On the outside, where the risk is high and the danger is greater, you may need a double brick wall and perhaps, in the case of seriously ill or addicted people, even some barbed wire. Let's look a little more closely at the fence metaphor, which you will soon recognise as a perfect metaphor for a boundary. Why? Well, number one, it separates you from everyone else. Number two, it protects you. 3, it defines and sets limits to what your responsibilities are. 4, it delineates the extent of the responsibility of others. 5, it comes in different forms and heights, offering different levels of protection. Whenever you bring it to mind, this metaphor carries over a rich, invaluable payload of meaning. More importantly, rather than remaining vague, ambiguous and abstract, the concept of a boundary becomes as simple, clear and tangible as a wall or a fence. Forearmed with the power of metaphor, simple statements and ideas like those that follow acquire a greater relevance and far deeper meaning. You cannot have a country without a border. You cannot have a property without a perimeter. You cannot even have a sense of self without a boundary. The human truth that self-preservation cannot be practiced without healthy protective boundaries becomes obvious and self-evident. The boundary scenario number 1 is called the drowner. A distressed and needy friend calls you every other day to dump all their problems on you. It's exhausting. Eventually you come to dread their calls. They really ask how you are. They are like the drowning person dragging the rescuer under. Okay, so this person clearly has been a good friend, but they've got into the habit of calling you and burdening you with their problems. And so therefore, when they do this, you start to get stressed. You start to feel overwhelmed and exhausted. So therefore, to practice self-preservation, to put yourself in the middle, this friend cannot be in the center. So just reflect upon the different types of boundaries and what boundary you need. Certainly, they're crossing the line. A picket fence isn't enough. Perhaps it's a wooden fence, but certainly you need to have a more substantial boundary, because the boundary marries with the emotional ruler and the careless triangle. And a person who's at this turn on your spiral, they don't have access to you, nor do you need to listen to all their problems. Because it's a one-way street, and that's unhealthy, and that's going to cost you your mental health.